Welcome to Today with Totally Out Now. I'm Raga Olga De Silva, or Totally Out Now as you know me. India is currently debating same-sex marriage equality rights. Although homosexuality was decriminalised in 2018 by overturning of Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code, same-sex marriages are not acknowledged or recognised by Indian laws. The centre has also opposed to any recognition of same-sex marriages, as you know. The Supreme Court has recently constituted a 5-judge constitution bench to hear petitions seeking to legalise same-sex marriage. The hearings begin tomorrow, 18th April. Now, today, I have two very interesting guests, very, very dear friends, who are two petitioners to the current marriage equality debate hearing in India. Both of the panelists are very, very well-known activists in India. So let me bring them here. Zainab Patel. Zainab, hi, my Mangalorean sister.
Hi there.
So Zainab is a transgender woman, a social entrepreneur, rights activist, and inclusion catalyst. She has extensive work experience in the civil society and policy sector in India and at the Asia Pacific region. Zainab, we're looking forward to having your views and have lots of conversations, and you're looking nice and bright today.
Thank you so much, Raga. Looking forward to this wonderful conversation.
Thank you. Next, we have another dear friend, Harish Iyer. Harish, hi.
Hello.
Harish is an equal rights activist, Impleader in the Section 377 case. Harish is the only Indian national listed in the Guardian's World Pride Power list of 100 influential LGBT, persons in the world. Harish's life has inspired 2 award-winning films and a book. He currently heads diversity and inclusion at Axis Bank. Good. We've got Dil Se. है ना? Dil Se account. So I'm going to start this. I'm expecting this conversation to be very lively, as the Same-Sex Equal Petition, Marriage Petition Act is going to be as well. Now, I'm going to start with Zainab. Zainab, you were one of the first petitioners to file the petition, as I understand.
No, I wasn't one of the first petitioners, but I was one of the petitioners who filed it in the Delhi High Court. And I was in the first batch of petitioners that filed it. I think I was about the 4th petitioner in the case when the case was listed in Delhi High Court. And then later last year, in the last quarter, I think by December, we made a transfer petition for all of these petitions to be clubbed together and for the hearing to start in the Supreme Court of India.
Sure. So I'm just going to ask you a little question which a lot of us keep talking about. We talk about same-sex marriage rights. And the media seems to be talking about same-sex marriage rights. The law talks about same-sex marriage rights. So what do you think? Should we be calling it same-sex rights, same gender rights? Is there a nomenclature to be used which is different?
I think among the various nomenclature which is ever evolving on a day-to-day basis, we should just talk about marriage equality and not calling it same sex, because idly now that there are also trans people or people on the gender non-binary spectrum in this case as petitioners. It's not about sex, it's also about identity and expression. So when we're talking about same-sex marriage, it does a little bit of disservice to all of the petitioners who are not looking at themselves in the same-sex spectrum, but rather looking at themselves at the intersection of identity and expression, etc. And just like all other people, trans people like me who are part of this petition are actually aspiring for loving and committed relationships that are both recognized by law and in the spirit of this constitution. And here we are not looking at a religious aspect or a cultural aspect. We are looking at constitutional safeguards across that makes us just about enjoying the same rights as an equal citizen, not making us second class or third class citizens in this country.
So is anybody talking to media about this though? Because everything in the media talks about same-sex rights, same-sex marriage rights.
I think the media needs to be educated on the language that they use. But I guess in the entire jamboree and run up to the marriage equality case hearings, people have been using different kinds of language. I am not sure. I wouldn't like to paint the entire media as using language which is outdated or not correct in both in terms of practice and acceptability. But then there is the vernacular press, and there are people in the mainstream media who may not really be aware how same sex marriage is actually different for what does this term mean for different kind of people. I just don't think we made, both as community or as those in the legal fraternity, a well thought through exercise of educating the media on this aspect. So this is something which has been problematic on both ends.
Sure, because I think it is very important for us to use the right language. We're all learning the language, and Harish and I have had a long conversation about this because, our pronouns, for instance, and Harish, that is why I want to come to you next, because your pronouns are he, she, and you're gender fluid. So when you file a petition, how does that operate for you? And can you just shed more light about the petition and you as a non-binary person as well?
I think gender and sexuality are evolving phenomena. They are not static at a time. So one could recognize their gender at whatever age of their life. Okay, and to add to what Zainab was speaking about, I mean these all are identities and identities in a spectrum. There is no one point to point out. It's what I tell you my identity is. That is the universal truth. It's not what you assume my identity is. That is the truth. So when people would jokingly, I know there's some snide remarks that people would pass at me, and they would say things like, "Oh, so you were he, and now you're he and she. Tomorrow, are you going to be she?" And I'll just smile back and tell them, "Probably yes, but you'll know from me. You don't need to know this from anyone else." Okay, so the entire idea of gender and sexuality, gender, sex, first of all, people don't know the difference between sex, gender, and sexuality. People don't know what intersex people are. They would often say, "Oh, my daughter was born transgender." Okay, I've heard this so many times because how did you recognize that your daughter was born transgender or your son was born transgender? So these terminologies are very difficult for people because they don't make the choice of trying to unlearn what they have learned from so many years. They're not difficult otherwise, but they're difficult for us because they don't make an attempt to unlearn what they have learned and to learn these things. And language is an evolving phenomenon. Like, for instance, I know they're very well-meaning journalists who used to use the word choice for, we respect their choice
Yeah.
as if we made a choice. Like Nicola and you made a choice one day of course, you made a choice to be out about it. You made a choice to stand true to yourself, but you didn't choose your sexuality. So what it implies into the larger context is that you chose your sexuality. You chose, like, you had 15 genders and you went and chose one gender. There were like five sexualities and you went and chose one. So I think there is a lot of work that we need to do as society, as different parts of society, whether it's media, whether it's activists like us, or whether it is the corporate world. I think we need to do a lot of work toward that. But as long I'm okay if people are willing to acknowledge and they're willing to come up the learning curve, if they're not change resistant, I think that's a good place to start, even if you're using the long language.
Sure, sure. So do you want to talk a little bit more about your petition, the petition that you have filed?
So my petition is under the Special Marriages Act, and the entire idea is, there were a lot of these religious petitions that were out. Um, so good luck to them, and I totally feel that every religion should recognize all kinds of relationships because history. Uh, History is proof to is witness to the fact that there is nothing that unites all religions as much as homosexuality and gender does, because they all get united against us. So we'd love to have each of those religions come on our side. But jokes apart, I think that personally for me, it was important that people, even people who are atheists, who are agnostics, people who don't believe in the idea of religion. Religion is what? Religion is what you're born into or with what you adopt, right? And it's a practice, and everyone should have the right to stay with the partner of their choice legally, because for now there's nothing that's stopping same-sex partners from getting married. Okay, there are many people who've gotten married, including you, Raga, including you, Zainab. So I think that uh, nothing is stopping marriage per se, but the fact that we don't have other rights, and if that is also going to be dictated by by religion, so does it mean that if I'm Hindu, I will get to marry a person of my gender, but when I'm Muslim, I'm not? What happens to interreligious marriages? What happens to, and do I tomorrow start looking for a Hindu boyfriend for myself to marry, or what do I do just because I wanted to get recognized? So the whole idea was to evolve beyond religion, whereas I believe every religion should sanction marriage, and that's the premise of the whole thing.
Sure. I mean, in a rare show, no, of unity, leaders from all of India's main religions, Hindu, Muslim, even Catholic, Jain, Sikh, have opposed
I
the
think I
union.
think we are the I think we are the best unifiers. I mean, we are the national integration people. We should just get us out in the streets, get us married so that you all can break your heads together, get united and plot.
And several of them are saying that marriage is for procreation, not recreation. And then those kind of comments that you hear in the
Well,
media.
hey, I mean, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how they would have sex then, So if it's not for recreation, do they look at cycles when the woman is more fertile and the sperm is most motile, and do they have sex at that time? It'll be a good. I'll love to peep into their records on how they do that. If it's only for procreation and not for recreation.
Oh, I've heard that on one national television as well recently. This woman shouting at the top of her voice saying, Do you know why people get married? Do you even understand?" And she screamed loudly and she said at this person, she said, "It's a license. Marriage is a license to have sex." And I was just like
Oh.
bewildered, saying, "Yeah, yeah, national TV." Nobody even stopped her from saying something like this. But Zainab. So, how do you feel when constantly, even the center has said this, and this is their main point of argument, that marriage is a union between a biological man and a biological woman? How do you react to that? And therefore, what are the main points of your petition?
I think this entire argument, which has been taken by the government of India, essentially the Ministry of Law, in coordination with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, etc., the stand that they've kind of brought in is biological man and woman. Now they try to, at one stroke, try to get everyone out of the ambit, because by bringing in the argument of biology, they try to keep out the trans people as well. See, my personal belief and my assumption works on this fact that after decriminalization, realization of rights, and living truly freely in an intimate, recognized relationship requires you to move on to the next phase of it. Now, whether one chooses to get married, whether one doesn't choose to get married for whatever reason, social sanctions, individual homophobia, transphobia, self-directed hate, there are many things that can be deterrents. I think for a person like me who talks about biology, who specifically in the context of child challenging biology, because in the Nalsa judgment, the test of a person's gender is not biology, it's psychology. They said it is self affirmed. Now, when you go back, you cannot reverse the judgment to suit a current day thinking within the lawmakers. And when the lawmakers essentially come back and say, let it be referred to people's decision. What am I? Am I a tree? Is Harish a plant? Is Raga a UFO from outer space? We are people. We have opinions because these are our lives at stake. And majoritarian logic cannot trump over minority rights. I think that's the beauty of the Constitution. And that is what has been held by various judgments of the Supreme Court. that we need to look at constitutional morality, not individual religious, cultural morality when it comes to safeguarding one's right. And when one looks at judgments like Navte Johar, when one looks at judgments like the Puttaswamy judgment, when one looks at the Hadia case, when one looks at the Nalsa judgment, and subsequently many other judgments which reaffirm the right to equality, the right to privacy, to autonomy, so on and so forth, it comes to light that when you're talking about this, all of those judgments will lose its relevance or its overarching nature when it comes to if you lose this logic in court. Also, the fact that when you're talking about when I read today's newspaper, it talks about a certain urban elite that looks upon marriage equality. I think if I were to reverse that logic and question the government, why is it that LGBT people migrate? We are the biggest migratory population in India and globally because we are forced to leave our homes, our cities of birth, to come to metropolitan cities, hopefully, in order to find safety, in order to find intimacy, to find corporates who are willing to employ us, and to be able to live our lives like everyone else does. So I think that entire logic needs to be turned over its head. And today, if they tell me that I'm not a biological woman, then what am I? I can't be a semi or a non biological woman because there is no mention of that either in the Protection of Transgender Persons Act or any other judgment or law that has been promulgated by the judiciary. So I don't know what is the logic of bringing something like a non-bio. And exactly like Hari said, when you're talking about procreation, what happens then to all of those women and men who cannot procreate? Should we send them to Timbuktu or not recognize their marriages? Because I don't think there's a standard definition of what a biological man or a biological woman should be.
I so agree with you. There are so many conversations that's going around, this banter that's going around, and it is quite disturbing actually. And that's why, Zainab, I'm just going to still stay with you on this. What are the key points in your petition? What are you petitioning for?
So let me bear some facts to you in front of you and this audience. See, as a trans person, when India was still battling decriminalization, on January 14, 2016, I and my partner went to South Africa and got a civil union done. I did not wait for India to decriminalize me. While I was transitioning, my passport still had my gender marker as male and my documents. And when I transitioned, I took on my partner's name and surname as my identifier because it gave me easy access to probably opening a bank account, to probably sharing property together, to covering my partner and his parents, my monster in laws for that matter, um, in my insurance coverage. And the case that I'm trying to make is that in one aspect where you are talking about protection of transgender persons, what kind of discrimination realization will the government need to kind of say that the statements that you are making in court is absolutely contrary to the law that you passed with absolute majority in the Lok Sabha 3 years ago?
Sure. Wow, that's powerful. I really, I'm just when people ask me these questions, because someone actually, when I put the poster out there, Zainab with your name and Harish's details, and I actually had people who asked me, so it's like, oh, but I thought it was same sex marriage equality rights. Why? What is Zainab doing in that? No, genuinely, this question was asked to me.
So
And
I just have
yeah,
one more thing to
yeah.
tell you. I and my partner separated before we filed for the Delhi High Court. But because we separated and we still separated in mutual agreement and cooperation with each other, we decided that we will use a marriage case. We will forward our confidential documents, our marriage certificate, my insurance coverage, everything to the court to make a point that by denying marriage rights to people, I am not asking for marriage recognition for me. I am asking as a trans woman for recognition across the spectrum that what you are doing is the absolutely antithesis of equality. It's the absolute antithesis of just and fair behavior. It's the antithesis of what you ratified in the ICPCR in 1979 as India. All of these, the Covenant of Protection of Civil and Political Rights, it's in direct controversy to that. Plus, it's in direct controversy to just about everything that our founding fathers put in the Constitution of India. And hence, when we go to the court, we are not asking them to confirm marriage rights. We are asking them to confirm our marriage rights.
Excellent. Wow. So I hope the audience and those people who have asked me this question, I know there were three who came to me with that. Please, I hope you're listening to this and understand the viewpoint of Zainab and the other petitioners as well. Harish, I'm going to come to you. Interestingly, last month, as you know, 21 retired High Court judges suddenly had an opinion, and they put forward this point saying that marriage, same-sex marriage, would have devastating impact on children, family, society. And they even sent this open letter. And then, of course, the Psychiatric Society then came and also showed their own solidarity. But in that IPS letter, there was something one thing I found problematic, and I'm just going to say, give my opinion on that.
One
So in
thing,
that,
just
no,
one
one of the things, because I actually look at it from a parental sense, right? For me, my lens is like, I'm a mother. I've raised children in a marriage and in a relationship of 16 years with another woman. So not that I'm an authority on it, but I know but when they say that, people from the LGBT, community should be very, careful and should raise their children in a certain manner. We always raise our children in a certain manner, but isn't that for all the parents to be kind to their children and to make sure that they treat them, not to discriminate, not to be biased, not to be judged? So can you just, I just want to understand this. What are your thoughts? Is this really genuinely going to have devastating, or is going to create havoc in society if you choose to marry, Zainab is married, if my marriage is going to cause havoc?
I think first I'll speak about your question about children. I think that was indeed offensive, and there are so many children languishing in orphanages across the length and breadth of the country. If you Google and find out the number of COVID orphans, people who have been rendered as orphans because of COVID, then the number is staggering. It's scary to look at those numbers. And then, so you have this one parentless children who are in orphanages, and then there is this other group that is there, which has the ability to look after children, but is denied the right to look after children. So look, here there is a need for a parent, and here there are parents, and because of and there it's a proven fact. I mean, if you research any, because India doesn't have research of this kind, we need to rely on Western research for this. If you research about American children who have been brought up by same-sex parents in America, I have friends who live in America and various other places who have been brought up by same-sex parents, and their children are either the same or sometimes even better, because the parents themselves are protective about the fact that they could be bullied, they could be told something, so they take extra care, they take extra. And here you're making, they know that what it entails, what having a child and raising a child entails. It completes their family, so they work really, really, really hard, and they really look after their children. Forget children. I mean, Zainab's cat just made a cameo over here. I have cats and dogs in my house, and I'm bothered that, okay, after they die and when I have the next cat, I'm going to get a senior cat, because I'm going to be touching 50. I mean, of course, I've got some time for 50, but in another 5 years or 6 years, I'll be touching 50. So just in case I pass off, I'm thinking about my age when I'm thinking about looking after a pup or a kitten. Okay, so imagine how calculated I would be when I'm looking after a child. So I think because we have been ostracized, because we don't have, we have never been shown. Again, she comes. Just let her be.
Let it be. We don't mind. Really, we don't mind. We don't mind if children being around.
Oh, my doggy is just sitting quiet right now. I think my dog is also gay, lesbian. So, so one of the things that we have learned is that, you know, we know that the dangers exist. Dangers exist for all children, but the danger exists for our children more than other children, not because of us as parents, but because of society at large. And whose responsibility it is to create awareness in society so that no children suffer, no children have to languish in orphanages, no children. Who's responsible? Who takes the onus of that? Of course, I can take the onus of people around in my area, but who takes the onus of it as a whole, and whose responsibility? Then one of the things in the Section 377 verdict, when the verdict was out, it also put the onus of creating awareness and a safe space on the government. How much of work has been done regarding that? How many safe spaces have been created, and they adequately funded, not just created, but adequately funded, adequately taken care of right till the end. After that was my dog Sonia, adequately taken care of later. So I think these all are things that we need to take into consideration. It is not parents who create gay parents who create a homophobic society or a scary society. It is the parents, it's the world and society at large, and we all need to work towards a world where any parents, as long as they're looking after their children well, should
Yeah,
be taken care of. It
I
should be
agree
should
with
be allowed to take care of those
I
children.
I agree with you. I think children, as I keep saying, all they need is love. They need safeguarding. They need protection. That's it. And my children, for instance, my daughter said to me very recently. She said, "Do you know that I have to come out straight?" Now they've been brought up right by two women. So someone actually asked her in our presence, "Are you a lesbian?" Because you've been brought up by two lesbians. So she says, "I have to come out straight every time she starts dating. When she's been dating a boy." She has to tell them, listen, I am straight, I'm not gay, and has to convince them. Now, you see, so that's one. And two is my question, Harish, when it comes to these kind of conversations about children, and Zainab, I want also your opinion on this. I feel that why do I need to carry the torch of being a perfect parent anyway? the
Exactly.
Why are you putting the responsibility on two women or two men or two trans people to have a perfect family? Our children will be as dysfunctional or as functional as any child. Let them be. Why do you by even by saying the way they put this IPS put the statement, it bothered me. I said, like, no, actually you're not doing this right. You want to say something, ask people who are actually parents who live this life, you know but Zenab, what is your view on this?
Frankly speaking, I think this entire thing is very outdated about parents because I was born to, say, quote unquote, a perfectly biological man and woman in a cisgender heterosexual relationship, and it didn't make me a transgender woman. So, I mean to say, I did not come from Mars, or I was not airlifted out of another planet. So, for me, even responding to something like this is absolute stupidity in today's context. But let me try and answer this question slightly differently. I think there is this extreme phobia about minoritism, and I'm saying this with extreme responsibility, that's driving people crazy across the world. Whether it's marriage, whether it's realization of rights, let's look at slavery. The fact that a minority community was enslaved, and when they started rebelling, the majoritarian logic felt threatened. The same thing came with gender. The same thing came with sexual harassment. The same thing came with blacks when it came to Black Lives Matter. The same thing came with realization of LGBTIQ rights, or for that matter, second world, third world countries, so on and so forth. I am not going to fall into the trap of talking about who raises children better, heterosexual or homosexual. My parents raised me to the best of their ability. And if I am given a chance to mother someone, and I think the way society sees us is we only become good parents if we are able to get something like them out. I already have kids of my own. I'm already a grandmother today at 43. I already have more than 50 kids who are part of my family, who are part of my life. Um, and I don't need society to tell me that only if I adopt someone from you or be a good parent. I think the fact is that I take care of my kids. I have employed 15 trans people. I take care of their lives, their livelihood, and I don't need a certification from any child protection agency to tell them that this is the kind of role a good parent should be playing. So they have their opinion, they can keep it to themselves. No one has asked them for it.
Sure.
And
So
we're not
tomorrow,
talking about adoption, we're talking about marriage over here.
yeah,
We will
yeah.
come to adoption also at a given appropriate time. But today we are talking about marriage equality, and let's stick to that at this point of time, because I think all kind of divisionary tactics will come into place when it's not about family and protecting the society. Then it will come to protecting the culture, then it will come to protecting the religion, then it will come to protecting the motherland, and then you'll also come to protecting the environment. Maybe we are causing the ozone depletion over India.
No, but I so agree with you. I mean, I think they're going to very soon run out of excuses. I'm sure they will. Oh, yeah, Sonia is also wanting to, I think, come on board. Yeah, she's welcome to, by the way, Harish. Harish, I'm just thinking, so what's going to tomorrow? We're talking about this hearing, 18th of April. Now, what does it mean? I mean, if you're people just watching this, ordinary people like us who don't understand what's going on, they say, oh, there's a hearing tomorrow of, five judges are going to sit and they're going to deliberate and they're going to listen to arguments. But what does that mean? What's going to happen?
Well, there are going to be conversations. It means that everything that's going to be uttered over there is going to get documented. It's going to be a part of history. Um, there are going to be two sides to it, in the sense that many people have been asking me also, is the verdict going to come tomorrow? I said it's not going to come tomorrow. It's just they're going to begin the hearings, so which simply means that um, there is there's always a 50-50 chance for both parties. I mean, on our side or this side which is opposing us, we feel very strongly about this, but they feel passionately about what they have to say as well, and they should be heard in a parliamentary, in the court of law. They should be heard. They should be given a chance. We might disagree with them completely, vehemently. Okay, we might think that they don't have their opinion doesn't matter, but it matters in the court of law. They should be heard. They should, and I hope that over time they, they rethink their stance. But similarly, they are also thinking that over time we would rethink our stance, right? So I think that there'll be uh, there will be a lot of things which would be offensive to both sides that would be said, because there would be one side which would be petitioning on, there's this huge army of people who are intervening. You are intervening. I'm petitioning. Zainab is petitioning, and we have many petitioners right now. All of them will put their heart and soul into this, and um, so there is going to be argument. We all are going to get called on television channels. Everyone is going to look for clickbait articles will be out tomorrow, uh, and glad for that. I'm not somebody who's listening, because Zainab and I have lived in an India where we used to come in the fifth page or sixth page in one corner, one dingy corner of the newspaper, and that's all the space that was given to them. One of the things that's going to be very clear right now is, even for political parties and individuals who are speaking like this, there is going to be an uprising of the young within these political parties, within every political party. The young are not going to take this lightly. They are going to voice their opinion. They are, and not the urban elite,
Elite.
but everybody who's young and who
Both
believes
sides,
in
right?
democracy.
So, and
Both
both sides,
sides,
both
both
sides.
sides, but more on this side. I would believe, uh, because anyone who's logical and who is standing up, upholding the rights of individuals, will stand on our side. That's my firm belief, and this will be a lopsided thing where there will be there's a uprising of the young which is going to happen within political parties, even political parties that oppose us. I've
Sure.
been speaking to a lot of them because it's not that political parties that oppose us or the government, they don't have queer people. Everyone has queer people. They've just not come out, and you haven't created a safe place for them to come out, or they have to oppose this because they don't want to come out because the best way to cover uh, is to just start beating the same people that you're standing against.
Sure.
So you'd have those kind of things that's going to be there. Whatever it is, this churn is going to be really good. This conversations are the genesis of change.
I
Even
agree.
if when love comes out of the closet, Raga, hate will come out of the closet too. And let haters come out and let them speak. But we aren't ashamed to share our names or to come out in the open and have a meaningful conversation with them. I remember I have gone to before, during 377, I've gone to very Hindu places, very Islamic places where they've been having conversations, and I've gone in between and I've chatted with them. I have spoken to them, much to the displeasure of many people within the community itself. They would come and tell me that, hey, what was your need to go over there? But the idea is to have a dialogue, to tell them. Many a times, people on the other side have not even met or tried to understand people from this side. So many a times when you go and speak to them, they are reasonable in their conversations, but they would have a but at the end of it.
Sure.
Uh, so I think it's important. Let this start some honest conversations. It'll be uncomfortable for both
Sure.
sides, but let it start honest conversations.
Sure, I agree with you, Harish, because I know for a fact that it was very uncomfortable for me as well to have that conversation with myself. It's taken years and years. You and I have spoken about it. So there are people, I mean, I know statistically, for instance, people say that I have never met a trans person. So I don't
Mhm.
know how they are. And, these conversations, the fact that even people like us are hosting such shows, the television, the media in India, the newspapers are talking about it. There are social media which is going mad about it. To me, I'm very mindful to acknowledge that yes, the change is happening. These, like you said, these were fifth, sixth, seventh, or God knows which page news. Now they are fronting that they're frontline headings, right, in a lot of media. So I'm grateful for the change. And for me, I'm going to come to Zainab on this. Zainab, I know that there's going to be live streaming. That's what has been told to us. Is the live streaming going to be tomorrow only or tomorrow onwards? And do we know whether this is going to be like only our cases, our petitions, or is it going to be just general cases, of which one of the arguments will be about the petitions?
So, just a correction that the live streaming has already happened in the last petition also.
Yes.
It's just that whoever has the link has forwarded it to people, and anyone can log on to that link and view it. One was only to be careful in terms of when is it that your timing of your intervention comes up, because there are many cases back and forth. So you have to sometimes wait all through the after, like last time we waited for 2 hours for our number to come. And if you want to make an application, like generally in the chat box of the link of the live viewing,
Streaming. Yeah.
there is a focal point who calls out to say that the next case is so and so. If you want to speak, you just raise your hand and they will unmute you. So I mean to say, if you are a petitioner in the case, not just anyone, I think anyone can put comments, no one reads those comments, but but it'll be good for people who are there to at least be visible so people can see them. Now, who's the one who's seeing them? I don't know on the other side who's seeing us on the other side, but you are allowed to speak. And if you are a petitioner, you are
Petition.
allowed to speak also. So I guess what we have generally done is WhatsApp people the link and ask them to join in just when the thing is open, so they get to hear, and they also get to see the kind of theatrics put in by the government on. By last time they said that, oh, if your parents are gay, you also become gay, and someone said there is
Yeah.
no stigma in the community. So let the countrymen also see what kind of theatrics come up in the court.
Sure. So tomorrow on the 18th, so they will may have only a few petitions that they hear, right? Or it's going to be
No. So there are petitions which. So last time, what happened is when the first time the Supreme Court took cognizance of this of all of these petitions and decided. So we were just four or five of us which were there, and and most of the stuff was argued by the lawyers. So none of us got a chance to speak. We could have spoken if we wanted, but I just didn't know the what was the implication of speaking at this point. Now that a constitution bench has been put together, a five judge bench has been put together, we will need to see how the applications flow through. Of course, all the bigots will be coming out of the woodwork, and there will be more Impleader applications coming in. So, won't be surprised to see more and more people trying to tag in at the last moment, trying to talk about religion, culture, space, ethos, society collapsing, the universe degrading itself, and the black hole opening. I think the same kind of arguments came up even when the decriminalization happened. So I think people now are smarter. We know what to get into and what to avoid. And I think now the arguments are slightly smarter. At least the televised debates are slightly smarter. They will say, oh, we don't mind this thing, but the recognition has to come in from, say, the executive or some kind of alternate rubbish that is thrown at you. So we are prepared for it. When we signed up for this petition, we knew that we were putting ourselves in the ire of the public, in the ire of groups which are fundamentally opposed to the idea of Article 14 and 15, which kind of prohibits discrimination on the grounds of sex. And here we are talking about marriage equality. So we know we are going to be putting ourselves in front of religious, fundamental groups, etc., who are going to challenge us. We put our safety, security at stake. But then someone had to do it. So here are a group of petitioners who are out there fighting for the case, because it's not only about us, it's about the hopes and aspirations of millions of LGBTIQ people, not only in India, across the world, who are looking for this case to come back.
Sure, sure. Because a lot of people have asked these questions. Oh, it's being streamed live, like it was streamed live last time. What happens? In fact, a couple of media channels who called me asked me that, oh, is tomorrow, are they going to have a response for everyone? Are they going to? I said, no, that's not going to happen. We're going to start tomorrow. And so thanks for that clarity. A lot of audience listening in, watching will want to know. Now, I'm just going to read a few comments before I come to the closing of this. I have a few more questions for you both. So fantastic comment from Manju Patel Nair. She says, thank you, Harish, for this focus on language. Given me a few things to think about, especially about the word choice. Fantastic. Rahul Sharma, who watches our program regularly, says urban elite sounds funny to me, which I agree with you as well. And he also says, I'm also a father and I know my responsibility. I love my son and he loves me. And that's important. Nothing else matters. Now, these are comments from parents who have brought up children. And I don't know how else to share anything. And I'm going to go with Zainab on this, saying that actually you should just learn to ignore it. I find it hard to ignore because as a parent, I feel I'm tested all the time. They're just waiting for one of my children to fall so that they can say, I told you, every child needs a father. And that's happened to many times. So it's hard for me to be quiet on this subject, but I think I'm going to take Zainab's advice on this.
See, there is a very lovely couplet in Urdu which says, "Koi yahan beaib nahi, only Allah ki zaat hai jo beaib hai." And to translate it literally, it says that no one in this world is without flaws. Only God, or the concept of God, is without any flaw. So I mean, I'm just taking it for its for its literal interpretation, not about Allah or Jesus or whoever, or about to come in. It's not about anyone. It's just about concept of. I think people are itching to see us fall, but they forget that we are human beings like them. And like Jesus says in the Bible, if you've not committed any wrong, be the first one to throw the stone. I think I think they are absolutely silly people to think that parents are not human beings. They are something superhuman. They never do a mistake. Um, Couples never do a mistake. I mean, if they were not doing a mistake, India wouldn't need to decriminalize adultery in 2018. So if they could decriminalize
Yeah.
adultery, what's stopping us from marriage equality? So you can't be a bigot always. You need to evolve with time. You need to look at what the founding fathers of India wrote in the constitution, look at the interpretation, and only confirm it. You're not asking them to confer any rights. We're asking for confirmation of these rights. So all of this matter. And for those who talk about the urban elite, please let me tell them I live in a slum in Juhu near the seaside. So yes, I'm an urban elite slum dweller. Thank you, and live with that.
Thank you for clarifying that. Seriously, I don't know where they come up with these terms. I just don't understand. Like I say, I think very soon they're going to run out of excuses because people as like us are not going to stop, is it? Nobody's going to stop us now. Seriously. But hey, Dr. Anita
No,
Prasad,
but
thank
I
you.
have to
Bolo,
also
bolo.
say that when my case was mentioned by one of the government lawyers, she said, "Oh, she's part of the National Council and she's a member and she's." So now the question is that I can either be a member or not be a member of the National Council for Transgender Persons, and I'm looking up to the government because the government is one heterogeneous entity. So you can't tell me that I'm discriminating against you, but I'm going to put you on a council and make you tell me points as to how to stop this discrimination. So we will hold the oh, and here's Bella, and we will have to hold you responsible for your actions.
Hi, Bella. Please be
Yes.
on screen with us. And on that, I have to also acknowledge Aruna Desai, from Swikar, the Rainbow Parent. She always watches our channels, and she's such a good ally to us. So, and she says, "Well said, Zainab." So thanks, Aruna. Thanks for that. We also have Dr. Anita Prasad, who's made a comment. She says, "Hi guys, love you all. Thank you." As I know, there are more than a dozen lawyers across India filing on each case, and I can imagine a combination of so many aspects how these are being argued in favor. Oh, I don't know whether any one of you have a response to that. Harish?
I think I think each one, if you really say each of our lawyers, we all are coming to the same point. What is the one goal that everyone is seeking? Okay, we might have gone to different lawyers. We must have spoken to, depending on our access or who reached out to us. But we all have the same goal. We want recognition for our relationships, right? We all might have different sets of arguments, which is very good, but we all are having the same argument. Our end goal is the same. So there is unity in that aspect, which is again very rare when you really speak about the legal fraternity as well. But there is unity in terms of what we exactly want in the end, what we want the end result to be. We don't have different visions of the same thing. So even people who are fighting for uh, uh, a religion or something of that kind, they still want people from their religion to get married. So I might agree or disagree with that, but the goal remains the same. So they don't work against anyone else's intent. So one of the things is the heterogeneity within the so-called, because everyone brackets LGBTQIA plus in one this thing, but we all are very different. We all are very distinct in our thinking and what we want. But one thing that we are clear about is that we want no discrimination and we want to live. And I don't know if my partner and I am going to get married. Is there going to be marriage for all the petitioners? We don't know. We are doing this because it's important that tomorrow when young India gets up as queer people, when they get ostracized from their family and they walk into each other's arms, and one of them lands up in some trouble, the other one is able to pick up this person up, whether it is in terms of insurance, because insurance is left to the mercy of a few, though there are organizations which are waking up and they're doing something about it. It's considered a privilege for the heterosexual people, whether it is about a very simple thing as and pandemic was showed the signs of that. When you had Zainab and I both have had, I'm sure Zainab has also heard of stories where you've had people who are at the deathbed and the partner is there who can't give can't remove the ventilator off. Even the privilege to die peacefully is denied to us in these circumstances, because we get thrown out of our families. We we have not. Okay, we are in loving families, but if we don't use our privilege, the fact that we have a semi cushioned life, so to say, in comparison to someone coming from some village and being thrown out and pushed, migrating to a bigger city and finding a space over here, not finding a house over here. uh, so if by being public advocates we aren't able to do that much, then I don't see a reason why we should be shining all the light on us anytime, or except the light that is that shines on us most of the times as well. So I
I'm gonna
think the onus is on all of us to
sure,
stand up and to do something,
sure.
and that's why we are out here. We might not be the direct beneficiaries also, but for generations to come, this should not be overturned, and we have a five-member bench for that, and I hope that this never gets overturned, ever, ever. But is that going to be a reaction in the parliament? Possibly yes. Is there going to be some drama? I've been getting messages, random WhatsApp messages from well-meaning people saying that, oh, you have put all your name and details out there. Are you going to get this thing? And I would ask them, I said, are you fearing for my life, or are you threatening me politely?
Yeah,
Okay, so I think all of that will happen, but we have come out of the closet and there's no going back.
sure.
And we
Now,
have come out in support and there's no going back now.
it's a
We're
very
only
good
going to get
point.
better.
Harish, you've made a very good point, very valid point that, people are thinking, oh, petitioners are petitioning for themselves. And Zainab, you also pointed this out. You're petitioning, I'm an intervener as well, for, if not for us, for the larger community that we are part of, our families that we are part of. And for the future, I'm really keeping my fingers crossed. Someone, like I said on the other show as well, someone said to me, "Yaar, aram karo na, UK mein, why you want to get involved in all this?" And said you're all out there, you don't know how dangerous it is. I mean, of course there is. I mean, we know that. I also get all these weird messages from people, but the point is that when I get on a plane to India, my marriage is not recognized. And I also know there are a lot of people who are married here, Indian women who are married, or Indian men who are married, or Indian people who are married, and our marriages are not recognized in India. So therefore, the same problem that you just spoke about, which has happened in my family, in my life, as you know. If I went to India, something were to happen to me, I'm going to happily say wife, then we can't take medical decisions on behalf of each other. People have no idea how such a small thing is so big in our lives. What we take for granted in a regular heterosexual life in that world. That's one. I have a very interesting question from a friend of ours, Neeraj, who you know as well. I think Harish, Lotus Visual Productions. After that, towards the end, I actually have one more important question to ask both of you. You don't mind us staying in another 5 minutes, over 1 hour? Zainab, you also okay with that? So Neeraj is saying, have positive commercial implications of same-sex marriages on economy been considered? Basic human rights in this case can be good for economy. Zainab, you want to take that?
I'll take that question. So, very frankly, I don't think this government is ever interested in the economic implication, because when we used similar studies done by Lee Badgett, the World Bank, and others, when we talked about the socio-economic cost of LGBT inclusion, and that included a point-wise increase in the GDP, no one took attention of it then. But I think, see, here the issue is I'm not going to mollycoddle it by talking about the economic cost. I'm going to talk about the straight human cost of not allowing us to be in loving, intimate, legally recognized relationships. And I don't think I need to substitute that or to complement it with an array of other factors which will obviously come into place. Any institutional contract between two people involves liability, involves investment, includes money transfer.
Yeah.
So, anyone in the right frame of mind will not need an explanation that when two people come into a mutually exclusive marriage contract, there is going to be exchange of finances, there is going to be an outlay, it is going to impact us as citizens, and the fiscal balance will change. Now, it's up to us to use that logic, it is up to us to discard that logic. You may say you're too minuscule a minority to even bother with that. And then comes to the larger question that the minuscule minority is so powerful that the entire ramification of the society built through millions of ages is going to get threatened by a minuscule minority who wants to marry into each other without even taking dowry from the government of India. I would love to invite the government of India to pay my dowry if I decide to get married. Next, Raga, please find me a nice husband from the UK. Uh, but but the fact is that I'm not asking for dowry. I am not asking for anything. I am just going to make the case for it as it is, and I'm going to keep a straight face and tell them that this is my right, and I deserve this as a tax-paying, honest citizen of this country. If you truly want to make India great, let all of India's citizens be first-class citizens, not second, third class, or whatever. That's it.
Yeah. Perfectly said. And this, I like the line you said. This is my right. It's as simple as that. Simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is my right. That should be the slogan, really. I'm going to ask a very
Mhm.
tricky question, okay, Harish and Zainab both, and feel free to ignore the question. But I think all of us now, I mean, 20 petitioners are the face of the community. We are fighting, all of us are fighting for so many of us. Is there unity within us, within our own community? As there is unity amongst the opposition, right? Say we spoke about it earlier, everybody's come together, Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, sab kuch aa gaye. What about our community? Do we have that togetherness to fight this together? I'm going to ask you both this question.
Uh, I'll go first, Senna. Okay. I think see, unity is relative. Okay. What do you are we united when we come to fight this cause? Yes, we do. But is there are there divisions between us? Yes, there are. Okay. The truth is that we do not because that's precisely what we are fighting for. We do not subscribe to the idea of homogeneity. We do not subscribe to the idea of one thought, one idea. So probably we know the end route, but there are different ways of reaching there, right? So we know there are end goals, and all our thoughts, our ideas, w- everything can coexist with each other, and that's what we are. So if you're asking me unity from that aspect, I think that there is unity because we all are fighting. How many times have we spoken about heterosexual communities staying together and them fighting with each other? We don't, because we are the LGBT community. There is often, I mean, haven't we heard of fights between Nanand and Devranis and Jetanis within the family itself? Haven't we heard of fights within various other circles itself? The reason why this becomes bad and this gets talked about is because we we are a community that has been ostracized. We are often in the spotlight for fighting for our rights, and that's why there is so much of focus on the fact, and that sometimes it gets difficult for us also. Why is there infighting? Why are these people fighting with those people? And all, why are these camps within the LGBT spectrum as well? Well, they are because we all are different people, and it's okay to have heterogeneity, and that's precisely what we are fighting for. And once you grant us all the rights and we can live our own individual lives, we possibly will have lesser reasons to fight, because most of the times you look at any struggle movement for that matter, there are divisions within every struggle movement because there are different routes. Everyone is fighting to reach a certain point. The destination could be the same, but there are different routes of reaching over there. That's why you see several movements for that matter. If you do take any movement, do you see that everyone believes in the same thing. I mean, you take the animal welfare movement, so to say, because so Sonia and Zainab's cat and all of us made this thing. There are animal lovers who love animals, who want animals to be this thing. There are animal lovers who love animals and they eat animals, and there are animal lovers who are vegan.
Yeah.
Okay. Do they disagree with each other? They disagree with each other all the time. Do they fight with each other? You should just come for one of the animal welfare meetings and you'll know how they fight with each other. Okay. But do they all stand for the same goal? Do they all stand for look at the animal and she makes her point over there. Do we all
Shehzadi.
Shehzadi. So do they all fight? Do we all have the same goal? We do have the same goal. So the
Sure.
thing is, this division is good. It's good because that we don't live in a homogeneous society.
Sure.
So we don't agree with each other all the time.
Sure.
But are we civil with each other? Do we come out and do we support each other when we need to? We do, and sometimes we don't also. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. And it also gives us the feeling of vastness that we are so huge. They call us minuscule, but we are so huge that we have fractions within us itself. It's a good thing.
Because we are look at the power of us. Each one of us is so big, millions of us, right, within
Yeah,
each.
I mean,
So
I mean, I know I'm a part of some 15 groups here and there, and they all cannot stand each other. And I'm the common factor, and I know some of them bitch and bicker about me, which is all right. In the end, it doesn't matter. In the end, we are standing for the same things. Does that make me feel dejected? Yes, it does sometimes. I call up Zainab when I speak to her. I rant about it. But who doesn't have fights in their
sure,
families?
sure,
Who always has things only unilaterally in one view? It doesn't happen. It's okay to have those. In fact, the biggest strength, Raghav, let's focus on the strengths that we have. If we don't, for many people who don't have families, their birth families with them. We have families of choice. I
yes,
don't. I used to dread the fact that my mother would die one day. Today I don't because I know that I'll have people within the community with whom I can stay, with whom I can call. I can call someone my child, I can call someone my boyfriend, I can call someone this thing. But we are complete families, even in our incomplete selves as perceived by the world. We have complete families. I have at least 10 friends whom I can call when I'm in crisis, and Zainab happens to be one of them. I can call people when I'm in crisis. I know that they'll reach out for me. I know that they will stand for me. And that's all that you need. That's
sure.
all that you need. Do we
I
agree every time? No. If we really open our boxes, Zainab and I will also disagree on 20 things. Which
Exactly.
is true, which is
I think
okay.
that's the power of us anyway. And I mean, I speak about this, and the reason I asked is because I hear these. I live far away, so I hear whispers, and it's okay. I feel that the fact that we can be so different at the same time, agree to disagree and still hang out together, be together. It says a lot. Zainab, you have a
Because
view. Okay.
many, oh, sorry.
Any go on. Sorry.
Many years before, I mean, I come from a part when I went to a particular elite, because we have elite also over here, where, gay meetings, and there were only gays. So I thought Bombay had only gays. They didn't have lesbians.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I was confronted with my own biases when I went and met people at the Humsafar Trust, when I saw transgender people over there, because I didn't want to stand with them, because I didn't want to get associated with them because of my own transphobia. Okay, there was always an us in them, right? But then I met them and I made some very good friends. It took me time. So when within the community, if you think that there's no transphobia, there's no, I'll invent a word, lesbian phobia or any phobia of that kind, there are people who have perceptions. All that you need to do is talk to them, and there will be, because there's
Yeah.
so many more identities. My partner tells me he's what, polyamorous or something, Sitafalras, Amras. There's so many identities that just get this thing, and so there will be divisions also. So it's
Sure.
okay to have these divisions.
Fair, very good point. Thank you, Harish. And Zainab, you have
Sorry.
views on
Just
this?
one, just one point. I'm not going to elaborate much. I think we reflect the society in large. We may come together, align on a particular cause, but we could have different viewpoints as to how do we reach. I think the very multifarious petitions are all challenging the fact that we need to have marriage equality. irrespective of whether they are two gay men, two lesbian women, a trans person with a cisgender partner, or a trans person with another trans person. I think the idea is that if you're trying to ask me, did we take public consensus as in the community when we went to file this petition? No, because these are individual petitions. They are about us, about our lives, and about our partner's life. Did I take approvals from anyone? No, because I don't, just like I don't need society's approval to be in a loving relationship with someone, I do not need general community consensus on this. Yes, and we could approach and we mirror the society, and we mirror the heterosexual cisgendered society. So, with all of their bifurcations, all of their difference of opinions, their lifestyle, we still cohesively at least make an attempt to live as a society. I think this petition and all of the other petitions have been similar, that we have different viewpoints as to how we want to reach the summit. Some of us may use arguments which may appeal to a segment of people, appeal to the emotive side, appeal to the academic side, or might just make pure sense. Some of us may have different arguments. So I don't think any consensus development. It
Sure.
is a personal story. If you ask, is marriage equality everything that LGBT couples in India need? The answer is perhaps no. But is it something that we see it as a felt need coming out of select people? Yes, and we are that fraction of select few people who are talking about it.
Sure.
Someone might say, let's talk about anti discrimination. Someone might talk about, say, inheritance. But okay, go to court. No one is stopping you from going to court and filing a petition, or stand up for elections, win an elections, and go and present a private member bill, or align with your political party to present a bill in the parliament. So, till such time that we don't have this consensus, we are going to use different approaches. There's no harm in being that. And we don't need to prove that we all think alike and our approach is going to be the same. I mean, even God couldn't create that kind of perfection. So humans
Exactly.
trying to do that is not going to happen.
Perfect. So I'm going to ask one last question, final question, very important question, because we are talking about same-sex marriage rights, marriage equality rights, and very important. Harish, I'll start with you, and then Zainab, you will end it for us. So, Harish, what is the outcome you're expecting from these petitions?
I think the only outcome that the court will recognize, because court will recognize that any two individuals, okay, I would go to the extent of wishing that any number of individuals, but that's not going to happen. But any two individuals, uh, regardless of their sex, gender, their sexuality, or or their religion or their caste, nothing, as long as they are adults and they want to start a relationship with each other, they should be allowed to do so. I
Sure.
think that's the outcome that I'm expecting. Where removing, I in fact, I want to be inclusive of heterosexual people also. Okay, so I don't think we require two different laws. We don't need a section in the marriage equality law which says that, you know, this is homosexual marriage equality, this is heterosexual. We're just saying any
Yes.
two people who are falling in love with each other, who wish to start a family, should be allowed to start a family. That's all. And this, what will happen? And of course, people are asking about what will happen after this, and after this, you'll ask for more rights. Of course, we will.
Of
But
course.
now our debate is about this. Let's speak about this right now. This
Brilliant.
right now.
Brilliant. Zainab, what about you? What is the outcome you're expecting?
I'm expecting all of us to be happily married for whoever chooses to be married, and the rest is for those who who are still aspiring. Continue to look at the courts for being able to confer their rights, but it also reaffirms that LGBT people will not continue to remain in the shadows. We are going to come forward and demand for our rights like any other citizen in this country. We are not second or third class citizens. I'm going to say this again and again, again and again, till people become tone deaf to what I'm trying to say. But yes, I refuse to be a second class citizen in this country. I demand the same kind of rights. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Zainab. I'm going to use this part of the snippet to talk about our show, because this is really important what you both have said. And anything else you want to share before we conclude? we've done, yeah,
I think
Harish?
all of us should say a prayer that the judges listening in use their logic, use the humanity within their hearts to grant something which this community has been fighting. It's not easy coming out with your personal life stories, with your details in a court case, exposing yourself to harm, to bigotry, to abuse. But for those of us who have stood this and decided to make this choice to come out in a public forum, may we be rewarded, and may our communities, our children, and those who will inherit this be at least, taste the sweet success
Yeah,
that will come to these judgments.
I
absolutely. So go on,
I
Harish.
I think I think one of the things that we need to keep reminding ourselves of is history. uh, that on the, whether it's the what are the judgments that we have fought for, the fights that we have had in the courts for so many years, and so many people have fought those fights. So one of the things that I wish happens is, each and every person who has fought, we chronicle that and we learn, so that, if you don't learn from history, you are what's happening in America. I mean, abortion rights being reversed and various other things that are happening, Roe v. Wade and other things that are happening over there. I think it's important for us to be grateful to history, to be grateful. You might disagree with many people, but to be grateful for the fact uh, that we have reached here because of the hard work of several people, several invisible people,
Yeah,
invisible people who are also invincible, due to which we are here speaking. We stand on very tall shoulders. Many of them, many of the names that we might not even recount, we might ourselves forget. But it's not really about us. We possibly had the ability and had the privilege to put our things, put our names out here too. But there are several people, everyone who's sitting in a hutment and watching this case with their eyes filled with hope, who have mustered the courage to stand up against an entire community and hold the hand of someone whom they love, and to tell that person, tell the entire world at the risk of getting killed, that they love that person. These are stories which we'll never hear. Many of these stories would also be buried, not just metaphorically but also literally, in various graveyards of history. I think these are stories that we need to remember. I wish that one day we have chapters of LGBTQIA plus history in our schools and colleges, and people are aware to know the names of the greats, on whose shoulders, not we are not great, but we stand on shoulders which are great, because those people who were invisible, and who are also invincible, are
yeah,
the ones who we need to remember, and we need to be grateful to history. It's very easy, Raghav, that we move a new leaf tomorrow,
yeah.
and we forget, and we start speaking about various things, and we totally forget people who existed before us. I think it's for us to stand up for them and with
Sure.
them.
Sure. I think we have Zainab has dropped off for network issues, but beautifully put, Harish. Beautifully ended this whole conversation about marriage equality that we're all fighting for. I'm actually taking away many, many things, but two things that stand up out for me is one is prayer. Yes, let's all pray. We need to have a prayer, and two is gratitude. So important to feel that. For me, I remember I lived in New Zealand, as you know, for many years. Now I live in the UK. Both countries have fought for this right and have given legal recognition to same-sex marriages. And I'm just thinking to myself, I remember thinking, ये इंडिया में कब होगा? And I remember saying this, Harish. I remember saying this very clearly. It is not going to happen in my lifetime. So the fact that we are sitting here at this pivotal moment in our lives, to me, like I said earlier, I'm very mindful of the gratitude that I feel. And so thank you for also work. Like you've worked relentlessly for the community, and Zainab and
I,
like yeah, Aruna and so many of our
I
families.
think I think Zen, I think Raga, the most Indian thing to do is to accept people the way they are.
Exactly.
We, the most constitutional thing to do is to respect people the way they are. We are not asking for more. We are just asking for the respect and recognition of our lives and our relationship. Nothing more. That's all
Absolutely.
that we're asking for. We don't want to topple the world. We don't want to destroy your marriages. We in fact want you to have happy marriages so that you don't bother with our marriages. That's all that we want. You
Exactly.
just have your own happy marriage. We will come to your heterosexual pride parades and we will dance in your heterosexual pride parades.
Absolutely. I hope
Uh,
that happens.
we'd be happy for you to come to our pride parades, our LGBT pride parades. But if you don't want to, we are not forcing you. We're not dragging you out of your homes. I got dragged last week to attend a marriage function, a heterosexual pride parade. But we are not dragging you to our pride parades at all.
Sure.
Just be and let us be. That's
Thank
all that we're asking for.
Beautifully said, Harish. As usual, like I say, there's so much I learned from you, and thank you so much. There's a comment from Rohit Talwar. He says, I hope more people listen to both of you talk. I hope the respect and love you incorporate in your arguments is noted by more Indians. We need that for more social acceptance as well. Thank you, Rohit. That's a really fantastic way of ending this conversation. As usual, we could have spoken a lot more, but we will
Mhm.
do this. We'll come back again when things are progressing. I think we will definitely have you back to know what's happening in India. You are our India contact. For those who have joined in, thank you for the audience participation. Thank you also to our partners, Lotus Visual. Thank you very much. Digital partners, Digital Fix, and our community partners, the Gay Indian Network in the UK. Thank you also to Nicola, the producer of Newsroom. And of course, once again, thank you very much to the audience. If you wish to take part in our show or have feedback to share, please write to the viewsroom@gmail.com and keep joining, keep sharing. I am on YouTube. This show is available for on my YouTube channel. Subscribe, share. These kind of conversations are very important for us to listen to and to share with others. Thank you so much, Harish. Thank you. And Zainab, I know you're not here, but thank you very much for joining in.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you.